spherical in shape or elongated. So the red blood cells of the human body are usually spherical in shape, and they are red in color because of a pigment called hemoglobin. The pigment called hemoglobin gives the RBC or the red blood cells the exclusive red color, and these RBCs flow in the blood, and these are spherical in shape, and they can be either round or elongated also. And some cells are long and pointed at the ends. The ends will be long and pointed, and those are spindle shaped cells. So these are spindle shaped muscle cells in the muscles, in your hands, in your thighs, your biceps, triceps are all spindle shaped cells. Next, sometimes the cells can be very long and branched as well. So the nerve cells or the neurons of the brain are examples of such type, long and very much branched. So the neurons or the nerve cells have very many branchings in them. So those are the examples of long branched cells. And these nerve cells, what is the function of these nerve cells? These nerve cells from the brain to the body part and from the body parts to the brain, they do the transfer and receive of the messages. Suppose if you are touching a very hot object, immediately we move our hand back. How does that happen? Immediately the nerve endings or the nerve cells send messages to our finger, and from our finger the message immediately goes back to the brain, and that is how we get a signal to remove our finger back whenever we touch a hot object or whenever we touch a sharp pricking object like that. And thereby these nerve cells help in control and coordination of the complete body. That is the function of the nerve cell. Nerve cell is a long branched cell. Next, the components of the cells are enclosed in a cell membrane. So the cell total is enclosed in a cell membrane, the outer covering. And this cell membrane gives the shape to the cells in the plants and animals. The part of the cell is covered by the cell membrane, and this cell membrane is responsible in giving the shape to the cell in both plant cell as well as the animal cell. So the components of the cells, the cell organelles, are enclosed in the outer covering of cell membrane, and this cell membrane is responsible in giving the shape to the cell in both plant cells as well as the animal cells. Then cell wall. Cell wall is an additional feature covering the cell membrane. Then cell membrane is covered by cell wall, but this feature is present exclusively in the plants. So in the plant cells, which gives rigidity and shape. So cell wall is an additional covering over the cell membrane, and the function of the cell wall is to give rigidity and shape to the plant cell. Cell wall is present only in the plant cells. There is no cell wall in the animal cells. And amoeba and WBC, both are single celled, but amoeba is an organism, whereas WBC or white blood cell is a cell. Understood the difference, right? Amoeba and WBC both are single celled, but amoeba is an organism, whereas white blood corpuscles is a cell, and both are irregular in shape. They can easily change their shape. The WBC also float in the blood, and the function of WBC is the defense mechanism to give immunity to our body. So these are the spherical red blood cells of human beings, RBC. The red color is due to a pigment called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is made up of iron. This is a nerve cell or a neuron. This is a long branched cell. The nerve cells or the neurons receive and transmit messages from the brain. And these are spindle shaped muscle cells, also called as skeletal muscle. Right? Skeletal muscle is made up of spindle shaped muscle cells. Next, moving on to the variety based on the size of the cell. So the variety in the organisms based on the size of the cell. All cells are microscopic, except one or two, and they can never be seen with the naked eye. Since they are microscopic, they are very much small in size. They can be measured in micrometers or microns, and sometimes in centimeter. So the smallest cell in the world is 0.1 to 0.5 micrometers in length, and that belongs smallest cell in the world, and the largest cell in the world measures 170 millimeters into 130 millimeters. That belongs to the ostrich egg. So this is the smallest size cell and this is the largest size cell, and all cells are microscopic. They cannot be seen with the naked eye. And then the size of the cells never determine the size of the body. Suppose if you think that elephant is a big organism, then elephant cell may be this much big, and rat is a smaller organism, so rat's cell may be this much small. No, the size of the cells will always be similar, whether the organism is big or small, and the functions of these cells is also similar in all the organisms. So suppose we take the example of neuron or the nerve cell. The function what neuron performs in human beings, in elephants, in rats is same. It doesn't depend on the size of the body of the organism. So never the size of the cell has any relation with the size of the body of the organism. So if we think that plant structure is so much big, then it doesn't mean that plant has very large size cell. And if the ant or a cockroach, if it is small, it is not that it has small size cell. If the tiger is big, it is not that the tiger has big size cell. All the organisms are made up of same sized cells. Only the number differs depending on the body size of the organism. This is about the size of the cell. Each organ is made up of tissues. So each organ of the body is made up of tissues. Tissues are made up of group of cells, and each organ is designed to perform specific functions. So these, suppose it is digestive system, then that organ has specific function and it is made up of specific type of tissues or cells. So different organs of a body perform different functions. So digestive process, digestion is carried out by digestive system. Then transportation is carried out by blood vessels, right? So tissues are nothing but a group of similar cells performing a specific function. A group of same type of cells performing different functions. Now that is the meaning of tissues. Next, moving on to the parts of the cell. The main parts of the cell are cell membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus, and these form the basic components of a cell. Cell membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus are the basic components of the cell. So first part is cell membrane. Cell membrane is the basic component of the cell. It functions as a semi-permeable membrane. So semi-permeable membrane. What is the meaning of semi-permeable membrane? That means it allows the flow of substances from its body to the surroundings. That means there is exchange of molecules between the outer environment and inside of the cell. So outside of the cell there will be semi-liquid like fluid like substance. So there will be exchange of substances or exchange of molecules between the cell, inside of the cell and the outer surrounding environment. So that is how it is called semi-permeable membrane. It is very thin and easily allows exchange of substances in and out of the cell. For cytoplasm and nucleus are enclosed within this cell membrane. So inside the cell membrane only the cytoplasm and nucleus is present. Then the membrane, this cell membrane separates the cell from one another and also the cell from surrounding medium. So cell membrane is the outer covering of the cell, and this cell membrane separates one cell from the other, and also this membrane separates cells from one another and also from the surrounding medium. So if there is any fluid medium around, it separates the cell from the fluid medium, and also it separates one cell from the another adjacent cell. Thereby this cell membrane is also known as plasma membrane, because many cell organelles are enclosed in it. Cytoplasm, nucleus and fluid, all these are enclosed in it, and this separates the cells from each other and also from the surrounding medium. So totally it is called as plasma membrane. Cell membrane is also known as plasma membrane. And then in plants, the cell membrane has one more special feature, that is in plants, the cell membrane has a special outer covering known as cell wall. So So that is present, that exclusive feature is present only in the plant cells. So what is the function of this cell wall? This cell wall helps the plant in protection. So the plants, in addition to the cell membrane, there is an outer thick layer of cells called the cell wall, and this cell wall helps the plant in protection. Protection against what? Protection against high temperatures, high winds, changes in moisture content, because plants are stable at one place. They do not move from place to place. That is the reason they need to have protection against high temperatures, high winds, air, and also moisture. So to protect against all these, the plant cells have a thick outer layer covering of cells known as the cell wall. And this cell membrane can be observed in the leaves under the microscope of what plants? Transcadentia. This cell membrane can be observed under the leaves of some plants in a microscope. In which plants? Rio, and then Tradescantia and Elodea. Elodea, Rio, and Tradescantia. These are the three plants. In these three plants, if you take the leaves and observe under the microscope, you can see the cell membrane. And other than this, you know the onion, right? Onion has a pink colored peel. You have both white onions and pink onions. But if you take a pink onion peel, the thin membrane, and you stain it with methyl iodine and observe methylene blue or methyl iodine and observe it under a microscope, you can easily observe the cells, and you can observe the cell wall of the plant cells also. So if you take an onion peel, pink colored onion peel, and stain it with methylene blue and observe under a microscope, then you can easily see the plant cells. That means you can easily differentiate the cell wall, cell membrane, etc. In earlier days, it was very difficult to study the different parts of the cells, but later many scientists developed new techniques, and then under the microscope, specific plant cells can be easily observed in the transection of the leaves or on the peels. So that is cell membrane. So this is the outer covering of the cell known as the cell membrane. This is an animal cell, this is a plant cell. So the outermost covering is known as the cell membrane. But in plant cells, there is also cell wall. So covering the cell membrane, there is one more outer layer in addition to the cell membrane in the plant cells known as the cell wall. Cell wall function is protection. Protection against temperature changes, protection against air, protection against moisture. And then when high pressure also comes, the plant should withstand that pressure. So all these functions are carried out by cell wall. The main function of cell wall is protection.